Okay, let's take a look at Chapter 8. And this is about, Chapter 8 is about some additional utilities, especially the TCP/IP utilities. So there are some different Unix and Linux utilities. Among those are file processing, system status, networking, communication, security, programming, source code management, and other kinds. So we're going to focus on, we focused on some file processing in the past with a stream editor, a SED. We're going to take a look at some of the networking ones today with ifconfig, ping, and traceroute. There will also be a couple of other sort of system status sort of commands that we'll take a look at as well. So different categories of Linux and utilities: network tasks, programming tasks, and then file processing utilities. Okay, the first command we'll look at is dd, and this is going to copy or take a look at, it's going to provide an input file. You're going to have an input file, and you're going to change it in some way, shape, or form. So the example here is we'll go ahead and use a dd command, and if we take a look at zoo2 and what that looks like, there's uppercase and lowercase. We want to go ahead and use a command, change the case of everything in zoo2. The output file is going to be zoo2_test, and convert to lowercase. We can convert to lowercase, convert to uppercase, whatever we want to do. So we'll log in, and then dd, our input file equals zoo2, the output file, and that's typically going to be a file that that's going to be a file that you write information into. zoo2 test, and we're going to convert equals lowercase. So it gives you this output. So many records in, so many records out. Cat file name cat zoo2 test. Okay, everything's lowercase. Same deal, uppercase. Everything's uppercase. Okay, next command we'll take a look at, df, and we've looked at this just a little bit before. It is a disk utility that shows you how much free space is available on your drives. So df, and the dash m shows you the information in megs, not in blocks, but megs. So if we go take a look at this, df, excuse me, that's just going to go ahead and show everything, all your temp file systems, your SCSI device partition A, or the active partition, and that's partition 1 on this particular drive. And so if we go and df and look for more information specifically for a device SDA1, and we need to, that will go ahead and show us that information specifically for SDA1, which is our first drive, and that's the main partition for our Unix system. It's a 1 meg, it's 19,000 meg, okay, shows us how much is used, how much is available, the percentage of use, and remember we created this so that the VM, the container disk, could automatically move up dynamically, increase in size dynamically. So this is showing us what that total is, and this is how much that we've used of that. So about 4.5 gig of about a 19-20 gig partition. Next is the top command, looking at processes. So if we take a look at top, excuse me, this is going to show us which processes are running on our system. And process ID, the particular user, on a regular system with a lot of users logged onto it, you notice you see Sean, you'll see a lot of different usernames running as the user. Of course, a lot of these are root, and root is the system administrator, so the machine and all those machine processes are running as root. The percent CPU, percent memory, all of those are there. Now, as we take a look at this, we can also show the uptime. Let me just come back over here. We should be able to hit Control C to go ahead and bump out of that. Now let's take a look at uptime. So I'd had this thing suspended, but and I'd restarted it, suspend it, and so on. The uptime shows 1 day and what is that? 19 hours 54 minutes, so almost 2 days. Okay, so taking a look at that. So again, top shows the CPU tasks, and the top percentage tasks rise to the top. Okay, now we have some, we're going to be running processes, and we can go ahead and run a process, and this ampersand sign goes ahead and starts it and runs it resident in memory. Now PS shows the particular processes that are on the system. So let's take a look at PS. That shows the processes that are running. Now if we put a process ampersand, top ampersand, that's going to run this top, the screen that we're seeing here, but it's going to go ahead and run it in the background. So we can see that it's running. If we go back and type in PS to show these processes, we can see that top is running in the background. Bash, that's this window that we're currently in, and then PS is the program at that instant that I had went ahead and ran. So we can go ahead and see what those processes are. Now notice that if we have a process like top, for instance, we can go ahead and kill that process. Kill -9, and then that process number will go ahead and kill that process. So if we go ahead and kill and then -9, and then that process number right there is 71943. Oh, goodness. Kill -9, and it is 71943. Okay, it says one process killed. It's the top process that's killed. Let's take a look at those processes using PS again, and we can see no more top process. Okay, so -9, remember, forces that kill. Let's see, free, we can see how much memory is free on this system. Right here, let's clear this. And -M will show the memory in meg. So memory, we have a total of 975 meg that was dedicated to this particular virtual machine. And then of that, we're using 485, and it's showing we have 149 free. There's some other swap files going on. Some of this is being taken by swap files, so it gives us a little bit of free memory. If we wanted to go ahead and increase the performance, we would just go ahead and go back into your configuration of your VM and then jack the memory size up, so we take more resources. Linux has a pretty small footprint. We can run it on this amount of memory really easily. But that's what free does. It just shows you how much space is left there in memory. Commands that we didn't talk about, ispell, CMP to compare files, restore, mail, and so on. ifconfig. Now, let's see. In some situations, and I think we'll be able to run ifconfig without this, but we may need to specify which directory ifconfig is in. So clear. We should be writing this as the administrator, and therefore it works as almost the administrator, almost root, at a high permission level. Excuse me. So ifconfig, it's like ipconfig on the PC. So it's going to show us the Ethernet address, or not the IP address. I'm sorry, the IP address. and this is being actually pulled from your VMnet 8 NAT pool. We had talked about that. I might bring that up in just a bit, but when you install a VM player, it creates a NAT pool, and when you work with NAT, it's a DHCP server will go ahead and hand off a NAT IP address to any device that logs on or connects, like a coffee shop, like your notebook here on campus. That VMnet 8 NAT pool does the same thing. When you go out, and here, let me set this up. Okay, this is the command prompt on my local notebook. So when we type in, at this point, ipconfig /all, that gives me all of the IP configuration stuff for this computer. Now, what I'm looking for specifically as relates to this conversation is VMnet 8. This VMnet 8 NAT pool is being set up by VMware, and this is pulling an IP address from this NAT pool, this network, 192.168.249.1, 192.168.249.129. So we can see that if you don't set a static IP address within on your Linux machine, if you don't set it, if you just run it as DHCP, it'll go ahead and pull an IP address from this VMnet 8 NAT pool. And then the network address is .1. The broadcast address is 192.168.249.255, and there you go. This shows the broadcast address of this particular network, the subnet mask, which is the Class C subnet mask 255.255.255.0, and then the internet address, or the IPv6 address as well. So that's what that's showing for this particular IP address. So we're looking at the IP address. This is a different number, obviously, than what I'm showing you here. Different broadcast, different subnet mask. Okay, so if you can't get ifconfig like this, you may need to type in /sbin/ifconfig. It gives you the same thing. It depends upon your permission set on the particular computer. Okay, now we'll use the ping command. We've done this 1,000 times. Probably done this 1,000 times. On Linux, if you just go ahead and type in ping, and then even, let's try this. It goes ahead and will reply forever and ever and ever. Ping Google. Some of these might not work. Let's see if that will work. Yes, that will work. Now, what you can also do to specify the certain number of counts, it'll ping out 4 times and then quit. Okay, but that's just a regular network utility to test basic connectivity. Now, traceroute. This will go ahead and trace your route and the times out to a particular point. Okay, with traceroute, I had to go ahead and install it. So let's see as I scroll up the command. Not that command, this command right there. Sudo apt install traceroute. So I went ahead and installed everything, and actually what we'll have here, I installed traceroute, but it's showing me my first hop, which is the local box, but it's not showing me any of the other hops beyond that. They're masked, so you can't see them. So if I traceroute carroll.edu, and due to for security reasons, we can see the first hop. That's this first box. That's heading out. But the asterisks show, excuse me, that for security reasons, those IP addresses are masked. So I'm going to go ahead and Control-C this, stop that, come back here. This is what you would ordinarily see. So if we were to go type in traceroute, in this case www.umt.edu or even carroll.edu, we would see, or we should see in many cases, the IP address and how long it takes to get to that hop. the next IP address in the hop, and how long it takes, and so on and so on. So it really shows you, or attempts to show you, in a less secure world, if you will, the hops, the IP addresses of the hops, and how long it takes to get there. So we're tracing our route back to the original location. So that's what it shows us. The rest of the slideshow here it kind of recaps file processing utilities, additional file processing utilities, system status utilities, and here's date, DF, file, finger, free, and so on. Network utilities, FTP, ifconfig, and you'll use ifconfig a lot and ping a lot. Communication utilities, we haven't really talked about those much. Security utilities, change mode specifically. Programming utilities, and then source code management utilities. Finally, just some miscellaneous utilities. Printenv we've used, tr we've used, cal we've used, cd we've used. So so that really concludes Chapter 8 and those particular Linux utilities. Okay, thank you.